But, you know, the thing is, wanting more isn't always a bad thing. But when we get distracted by looking for satisfaction in the wrong places, and then become, the Bible doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And what happens is we get our eyes focused on it, and we lose track of what's really important. It's not about what we have, but what we do with what we really matters. Being rich in what matters most, so to speak. And so we're in the second part of a series called Being Rich in What Matters Most. And I want to give you the quick review. We covered some good news and some bad news last week. And if you were here, you guys remember what the good news was? We learned that if you make $33,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of wage earners alive today. So if you're making $33,000 a year, rich, compared to 99% of the world. It's amazing to think about that many people are in the top 1%. Some of you are like mega wealthy. If you make $80,000 a year or more, you're in the top 10% of that 10%. And you are truly blessed. God has given us really more than we need. And I know we sit there and look, well, we don't really have that much, and I'm not saying that you use it wisely. I'm just saying I've given you a double blessing. See, for most of us in America, we're never satisfied with what we get. We always want that next dollar, next time. In fact, J.D. Rockefeller, you probably heard the name, used to be one of the richest men in the world. And one day the reporter says, Mr. Rockefeller, you have billions and billions. You have more wealth than most nations. And yet you're always trying to make more money. How do you know when you'll have enough? And the response was, well, when I get the next dollar. I'll have enough when I get the next dollar, when there's not another dollar to bring in. I mean, we're talking about the very guy who went down to the department and figured out how to make the oil barrels fewer nails to save some dimes. God truly blessed most of us. That's the good news. Of course, we also learned some bad news last week. The bad news is we're rich. Yes, wait a minute. How can that be good news and bad news? Well, remember people problems. Like you couldn't get the rich apartment you wanted, or the hair appointment, or they put your cell phone coverage doesn't work very well, and in your bath you can't do business while business. Rich people problems. But you really do have significant spiritual challenges because we've been so blessed. And last week we looked at the reality that because we've been so blessed, it's harder for us to depend on God. And that really is the bad news. It's not so much that you can't get the hair appointment or that you can't buy the right car or you can't do this, you can't do that. The bottom line is God has provided for all your needs. In fact, it says that in Scripture. My God shall supply all my needs according to his riches in glory. He shall give his angels charge over me. Jehovah Jireh careth for me. Guys, the reality is that because we've been so blessed, we stop seeing God behind the scenes. It's harder for us to depend on him because we think, well, I can rely on my money. I can rely on my wealth. I can rely on this, or I can rely on that. I can rely on the new car. I can rely on the new house. And we ourselves further and further and further and deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. I have a friend of mine. I have two families, two really neat people. I like them both. I've known them most. Both of them grew up with money. One of them name is, well, his daddy owned a company called Stockham Industries. Stockham Industries was a family-owned business. They made one thing and one thing only. They didn't make anything else. They made ball bearings, and they were the only company in the world ball bearings. So Stockham built bearings. Were in the space shuttle. They were in the rockets. They were in planes. I mean, if you had a bearing in your vehicle, Shape or Short was made by Stockham or one of their subsidiaries. But see, the Stockhams grew up because Dad decided that he wanted them to understand what it was like to live in the real world. And so he threw them out, his son out, told him, look, you inherit everything when I die, but then you're going to go to college, you pay for it. If you want to work, you work. You can't make your bills, that's your problem. And so Mr. Stockham went out and got his pilot's license and became a crop. And at the ripe old age of 35, his father died, and Mr. Stockham inherited everything. I ran around with Drew, their son, to my high school age. And I'm going to tell you that I didn't learn most of this until I was an adult. Because you would have never guessed this was a family with money. Totally, completely just regular people. The only connection they made was that Mrs. Stockham got a new Cadillac every year. Drew, just like me, drove an old beater. Mr. Stockham drove a pickup truck. And he went to work one day a year. He would fly down, he would drive down to Palm Beach County and fly his plane to corporate headquarters. But nobody knew all that. He loved Jesus. And because money meant that much to him. Is always looking to make more. They're never satisfied with where they are. And so they don't care about Jesus. They don't care anything about being saved. They just know